Hello, and welcome to episode 44 of Things I've Learned from Barry Harris. Today I thought I would talk about something that we haven't brought up before, which is the whole tone scale, which Barry brings up quite often, and the way that he comes up with it from his creation theory is he starts off with the chromatic scale. Those scales break up into two whole tone scales. So this scale and also this scale. And there's your total chromatic scale. So let's just talk about the whole tone scale for a second. The whole tone scale obviously comes from the idea that it's built upon whole steps. So you have the first note, then a whole step above it, a whole step above that, whole step above that, whole step above that, whole step above that, and then back to the top one. So if you can see, it only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes in it before we get back to the octave. Now you practice this scale in the same way you practice all of your other Barry Harris scales. So for instance, we should learn how to play the scale up and down. And let's just do it kind of a little bit further than we normally do because it's only a 6-note scale. So let's make sure we do it at least 2 octaves. You have to know how to play that scale in thirds. Now you can either do it try to stay in position, or you can just sense it's always going to be the same kind of third. It's always going to be a major third. You could just move major thirds. So you got and then down. Sorry. Thirds, and maybe if you do triads, which would be the root, it would be an augmented triad. So if we did that in triads, it would sound like this. Same thing again, all in whole steps. Down. One up, one down. Sorry. Same thing going down, opposite way. So that's triads. You could do chords, it's going to be the same thing. Now let's just talk about a few other things. So you had thirds, but if we look at the next interval, if we start on the A, and there's a second, there's a third, then we also have flat fifths. So you should also learn how to play it in flat fifths. Next interval up would be a minor sixth. So you should know how to play it in minor sixth. Down. Pretty. The next is a flat 7, so let's see what that sounds like. That one's a little more dissonant, but Next one is octaves. The next one would be like a, let's see, a ninth. So let's try ninths. Down. The next one would be is the octave ninth. Tenths. Which is pretty too. The next one, well, let's stop it at that point. That's pretty good. The other thing that Barry does with it sometimes is he'll start on one note. So we're doing basically a whole tone. So I'm going to start on this note. I'm going to go up. But I'm also at the same time going to go down. So I got this going up. And I'm going to do this going down at the same time. Now what gets interesting is you have to kind of do some weird fingering, but we're going to do contrary. So we'll start on the one by itself. Now it's going to go down and also up at the same time. So now you get thirds. Then you're going to move this down again a whole step, move this up a whole step, and you get that flat six. So now you get the first three of this. Now if we do it again, you're going to get octaves. So now you got this. If you do it again, you're going to get tenths. And then we're back to a full double octave, really. Oh, sorry. So you got the first three. I don't know them as well as I should, but so okay, that's another thing you can do with it. So what Barry tries to point out is all those different ways to practice it. Okay, so you say, okay, well now how do I use it? How do I use all those things? They all sound strange. He likes to use it primarily when you're playing a dominant chord going home. So in other words, if we're playing an A7 chord going home to, let's say, D major, a home meaning a fourth higher. It could be to D major, or it could be A7 going to D minor. Or it could be A7 going to D7. Any of those. Or it could be A7 going to D half diminished. It could be any of those. So let's take a look at what you could do with it. And the song that has A7 in it is, let's say, the bridge of Body and Soul that says, okay, so that's in the key of D. So it's D major, da D da 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 da, E minor, F sharp minor, D da da da, G minor to C7, and then 3 6 2 5 in D, which is F sharp to B minor to E minor to A7 to D major, and then you can play another A7 to get back to D minor, which is the next change in the song. So there's kind of two spots there where you could play it. So let's try the first part. Right there would be a nice place to put a whole tone scale. So let's see. Pretty, right? Here comes another spot to put it. I did two of the different things. I did a whole tone scale where I did that contrary motion, and I just ended on the tenths because I'm really not that good at doing it further, but I could have done it that far and then gotten to D minor. But you see all the different little pretty things that you could do with it. Let's do, that was thirds, so let's try it again. That's the flat fifths. That's really pretty, the flat fifths, so let's try that again. Beautiful, flat fifths. Let's try the sixths. Let's try a sixth. Let's do something like that. Let's try something different. That was just flat sixth, and that's a pretty one. I've never played that one. Let's see. And then it goes into D minor to G. But see, that's a really pretty. Those are really pretty things to do. Just now with just the thirds, then the flat fifths, then the minor sixes. Those were all beautiful ways to play it. And then we did the contrary. Again, contrary. Now D minor, because the second time around it goes to D minor. So all these little pretty things. Oh, you know, the reason why actually I brought it up was because Bud Powell plays this great thing. If we're taking up A7, starting on the third, going down thirds. But he does this. That's his pattern. So he comes down a third, then puts a half step in between and comes down. So this would be the whole tone scale. But he puts a half step between those two, so he does this. And then he does it on each degree. Sometimes he doubles up, he says. But that's a really pretty thing to do. Let me see if I can fit it in. So you just kind of try to throw these little things in. And I know there's other places where you can use the whole tone scale, but primarily to use them from a dominant point of view, going home a fourth higher, whether that be to a major, to a minor, or to another dominant, or to a minor 7 flat 5. Those are all beautiful little things to do. So think about it. Just those few things that I just practiced. If you really got them together on your instrument, all the different little variations that you could come up with in doing chord melodies or even in your solos. You know, like if I'm soloing over this. See, you could just do anything you want on a whole tone scale. That's a really nice one to just do it a couple of octaves. A good way to practice it too is, which is kind of a nice way to look at it. If we're looking at one position, you got 3 notes this string, now 2 notes on this string, if you're playing guitar of course, then 3 notes on this string, and then you got 2 notes again, 2 notes on the B string, 3 notes on the E string. So you'd have 3 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes, 2 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes. So it would be this. So as a guitar player, obviously we like to do things in half steps, so we can do this. Or you could do 1 up and 1 down. obviously, I'm not the fastest person in the world, but you see the idea behind it, that you could practice it. You can practice it like that on saxophone too, also to get used to moving the whole tone scale up half steps is important too. Anyway, I hope this was informative about the whole tone scale, because people have asked about it, and Barry does bring it up quite often. But he has, of course, you should go back and look at all those Barry Harris from Holland videos, because some of the whole tone things he does are really fantastic on the piano, just so beautiful. And you could transcribe them to guitar and really work out the fingering for it, and it'll sound really nice. So, okay, I hope you enjoyed episode 44 of Things I Learned from Barry Harris, talking about whole tone scale. Until next time, thanks.